Welcome everyone. Welcome to the first iteration of the RelSci workshop. I'm very excited to be bringing this to you. I'm your account manager, Jeremy Newman, and thank you for registering and attending this workshop. So what exactly is this workshop and how was it created? So this webinar was created because of direct feedback from you and other users that wanted a more detailed and hands-on webinar. So I'll be answering questions that were submitted by users recently, as well as historical questions from the past. If you have any questions during the workshop, please feel free to write in using the interface. There's a question interface that you can write in any question that you have. It could be very specific, very challenging, or just general, feel free. Or even just general high-level questions as well. And I'll answer them as soon as possible. So this webinar will be entirely live. So what I mean by that is I have no script. I'll be working through every question for the first time. So I'll do my best to explain how I am solving the questions and finding the solutions. But if I'm not detailed enough, I don't go do enough steps, please don't hesitate to let me know. Also, as always, if there are any audio or technical issues, let me know by chatting in or writing a question, and I'll try to resolve them as quickly as I can. So before any webinar that I host, I always like to just say three things and have them, kept in mind. Number one, we're not social media, so no one will ever receive a friend request or alerts on either end if you mark someone as a relationship, prospect, etc. It's completely private to your company. Number two, we don't contain any user-generated data, so no LinkedIn, no Facebook, nothing of that nature, no blogs. It has to all come from publicly verified sources. And number three, we don't give out contact information. And this is intentional. We're not a contact network. We're looking into maybe including that in the future, but right now there's no contact information on the platform. Alright, so before I get started on the questions that I've received and the historical questions, I do want to cover a few things in terms of basics. And so the two questions that I always receive the most from experienced and veteran clients and users as well as new users is how do I upload relationships into RelSci and how do I upload a list into RelSci? Because both of those, in my opinion, are vital to getting the most return out of RelSci. Alright, so the first question, how do I upload relationships into RelSci? So I know a lot of you have seen this already, but to upload relationships, you'd log into your account and click My Relationships. And if you want to add relationships, click the Add More Relationships at the top here. And so this will bring up all the various different ways you can upload relationships. There's Outlook, there's the mobile app, which is great, Exchange, LinkedIn, and for most of these, there's actually a great step-by-step guide if you click into it. So for example, if you click into LinkedIn, it'll bring you through the steps of how to export the contacts and how to actually sync them up to RelSci. As well as for Outlook. Outlook has a very detailed explanation. And it will tell you how you can actually get your contacts from Outlook and then import them and sync them into the RelSci platform. But what I want to go over in detail is that CSV file. How do you upload a CSV file? What fields do you need? What fields can you include? Because a lot of people use Razor's Edge, Backstop, lots of other different CRM. Sugar is another popular one that we don't have a selection here for, an integration with. We have an integration with Salesforce and Dynamics, but no other CRM system. Or if you have a lot of legacy CRM systems or you're pulling it from a lot of disparate sources, CSV and Excel file is always the easiest to kind of aggregate that. So when you click into the CSV, it's going to ask you to download a template. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if we open this up, this is what the template looks like. So hopefully everyone can see that. I'll try to enlarge it so everyone can see the different columns. So we have first name, middle name, last name. We have phone number, company, position, city, state, zip, etc. So this is all the information that RelSci can use to match contacts to our universe. However, we do not require all of this. That would be a lot to ask. So what we require are these columns right here. Name information, email address, or company. So these are the columns we require. You can have a column that's not just first name, middle name, last name. You can have a column instead that's full name as well, and that'll work. You can include first name, middle name, etc. in there. So that will be fine, but usually most people have it separated first name, middle name, last name. Email address needs to be the company email address. And if you're actually worried about us having your contact information, so if you don't want us to actually have the emails of people that you're uploading to the RelSci universe, you don't need to give us that. All you need to give us is the domain. So I could put in, for example, RelSci.com for now, and let's say I put in mine. And I could put in my name and my domain. It can match on this, as well as to add that @ symbol, since Excel does not recognize it as a valid input. You can actually make it a, if you want explanation how to do this further, you can make it a text value and concatenate it, but I won't get into that detail right now. And then company, the company name. So this is what we need. Position, city, all this helps increase the match rate, but is not required. So if you're working from a blank document, so no template, and you want to just kind of know what we need to match for, just always include full name, company, and email, and this is what you can work from. So I already have an example file readied. Let me continue down and pull that up. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this. So here's an example file. I have full name here on the left and company. So I don't have email address. It's not readily accessible for me, or maybe I don't feel comfortable uploading it. Then all we need is that company and name information, and this will work. But there's a few key things I want to point out that people have difficulty when uploading relationships, when they receive errors. First, I always suggest someone save a file as a comma-separated value file. That'll make it a flat file, and there'll be no issues uploading it. The only issues that might arise is you have to have the right header names. So full name, first name, last name, company, organization, position, role. You can kind of interchange those. You don't always have to keep the same headers. So organization interchanges with company, position interchanges with role. That's perfectly fine. But if I had company and role in one column, that will not upload correctly. Or if I had named company instead of company, I abbreviate it CO, that will not upload correctly either. Or even if I abbreviate organization as org, that will not work. You have to have something the system will recognize, and we can upload it. The other thing I see that happen a lot is if you're uploading an Excel file. The RelSci platform can accept flat Excel files. We cannot accept any with formatting. So right now I have filtering on here, if you see at the top. The RelSci platform will not accept this file. It'll show an error message. Or if you have different fonts as well. So if part of it was bolded, it will not work either. So to get rid of this, there's a few things I can do. I can actually turn off filtering and save this as an Excel file, and that'll work as well. Or even if I had filtering on, I could just save this as a CSV, and that'll also work. And for anyone that uses Mac as well, Numbers, I believe, is the program that Mac users use. You can also save a Numbers file as a CSV file. It should be an option. I don't have a Mac readily accessible, so I can't show you. I apologize for that. But if you have any numbers questions or Mac questions, you can always give me a call or shoot me an email, and I can help you out. All right, so we have the file now. So this could be pulled from disparate sources. It could be pulled from your CRM system, Razor's Edge, whatever it may be. And now we want to upload it. So I'll start over for everyone. So we're back on the relationship page. To get there, oh, 1 second, I have a question came in. Give me a second. Sorry about that. I'm trying to keep in mind the connection is a little slow. There's a little bit of lag, latency, and so I'll try to slow down a little bit. So add more relationships. And so once this screen loads, you'd have that file ready and click Other CSV. And this is where you can download the template if you want to. That's great to work off of. But if you already have a file, you can just make sure those headers are correct. Make sure the headers are correct. They're in row 1. So I'll pull that up as well, since that's another common problem. So the big thing is some people have headers accidentally in row 2 or row 5, whatever it may be. Make sure the headers are in row 1. Excuse me, and make sure at the very bottom of the file that there's nothing below here. So if you have extra information, like for example, Salesforce would have the report you pulled, when you pulled it, etc., make sure that is all deleted. All right, so continuing on, we're back at that other CSV section. And we'd click Choose File. And then we'd navigate and select that file we had just saved. So if you see, I just selected the RelSci workshop example file, and we hit Start. So this is where, if you have any errors that would happen, would appear. It would not let you do this. It would say error, there's something wrong, and tell you if it could figure out what's wrong. But in this case, it looks like it's matching perfectly fine. It's telling, okay, 36% complete. And it's going to keep matching. And so once the process is complete, it'll actually say on the right up top, there'll be a little pop-up that tells you when. It'll also say how many new relationships you have, etc. And this number will update. But if you are not positive that the file went through, the best way to check is just click this Match History button. And it will tell you your historical match history. So what files have you uploaded? What type of file? Was it a CSV? Did you do it through an Outlook add-in? Did you do it through Exchange, etc.? And it will tell you how many new relationships you have, how many potential matches you have, and how many did not match. So what some people do is they look at the no matches, and they might request a few of the very important people that they want to have relationships with to be profiled using the RelSci Services button. If you have a large request, like for example, a lot of people did not match that you think should be profiled, let me know and we can discuss it. Maybe we can get a file. You can send me a file of the people that you think should have matched, and I can send it directly to our research team. There's ways around that. The other thing I want to talk about is potentials. So we have 908 that matched. That's fantastic. But we have 213 that did not, but are potentially matches. So this means that the file either didn't contain enough information, or the system couldn't recognize exactly, the correct match. For example, this happens a lot with common names, Tom Jones, Bill Williams, very common names, hard to match. So in this case, you go to the Potentials tab. You'd come in through here and would look at the name. It tells you the name of the person you uploaded, as well as the company or the position, the details you've included. And it breaks it down by, okay, well, here is everyone that we believe might be a match. And you can go through here and select, oh, here we go. It looks like this was an error, more of the system didn't recognize a few symbols that was in the file. And Alberto Gonzalez, Grupo Bal, it's a match. We can just click add, and it'll be added to the relationships. And you can go through and do that for different types of people. So if you actually saw in the file, I purposely constructed it. A lot of the people had company information included, but a lot didn't. So if you ever have a file that doesn't have a lot of company information or doesn't have great email information, always take a look at potentials, and you can use your contextual clues, your background knowledge of that individual to select the right one. We can do it for you, or I can do it, I should say, for you, but I won't have that background knowledge that you will have, and I won't get as good of a match rate as you would. And so these always live here. You can always come to the Potentials tab if you have, a free minute or so, maybe just browse through it and double check. If one is definitely not a match, you can always select no match, and it will remove it. Okay, so that's basics number 1. That is uploading relationships. If you ever want to take a look at all your relationships, just always click into My Relationships. It'll tell you which ones are newly uploaded. That'll also work for your colleagues. So if your colleagues have recently updated relationships and you take a look, it'll tell you if it's new, as well as the details of when it was matched. Excuse me. All right, so the next basics thing, which is a little more nuanced than relationships, is list uploading. I get a lot of questions about list uploading, which is fine because I think they are one of the more underutilized features of RelSci. And if you use lists, it can make the platform significantly more powerful. So there's a few ways to create and upload lists, or I should say create lists. If you want to make a list within the platform, that's not too difficult. So for example, if you use Power Search, or if you go to a person's profile, you want to add them to a list, you can do that. It's not too difficult. For example, if I pulled up Amazon, I always like to use that as an example, and pulled up their profile page, I could click add to a list, and then I could add it to a new list or select an existing list I have. It's kind of simple. It's a manual process, but some people like to do it that way. But if you're a for-profit or you're non-profit and you're uploading a lot of people, then what you want to do is use upload file to list. So upload file to list is what you would use, and only CSV is permitted. It's exactly like the relationship uploading I just went over, but there's a couple differences. So I also have an example file pulled up here, which I'll pull up and show you. Unlike relationships, lists allow you a little bit more flexibility in what you're allowed to upload. So the matching process is more or less the same. But what lists allow you to do, let me make sure everyone can see this. And as always, if I'm going too fast or the screen is a little, it's lagging a bit, or if there's any sound issues, please let me know. So what this does is very similar. Actually, it's the same file, if you have a keen eye, as the relationships. But the big difference here is I included a field called tier, which would actually create an error in relationships. So if you uploaded a relationship, it would not recognize this header, and it would be very confusing. But lists allow you to upload custom fields. It's a capability free of charge. I'm pretty positive that everyone has it enabled. If not, let me know and I'll enable it. But in this example, I have a list of people, and let's say it's a targeting tier. So mid, I have some named top, large, small. This could go for profit, nonprofit. For nonprofits, if you're hosting an event, if they have a certain status or constituency. For profits, you could put their estimated net wealth, any other information you might have on them that RelSci doesn't have, so any proprietary information, etc. So we'd save this as a CSV, and then go back to that list section, and hit Upload File to List. And then select Choose File. Scroll down and select that file. And so just like the relationships, it'll tell you when that file is selected. You hit Upload, and it'll bring you to the list upload main page, if you will. So this is how you know you're doing it right. This will come up next. So what this allows you to do is two things. Either create a new list. So if I wanted to create a new list, I could name this prospect list. Let's call it 2016. Or if I'm uploading a file and updating an existing list, I could select an existing list from the drop down on the right. And that would upload the file to that list. But let's say for this sake, we'll create a new one. And so this is the basic lists field that if anyone uses lists will recognize. So name and description. That's executive summary for people, kind of their influential role, and for organizations, it would be their business description. Excuse me. But what's great, and what I really like to tell people about, is on the left here, it allows you to select fields and the ordering of the fields. So, for example, that tier field, I can click that and include it. And that will show up in lists within RelSci. You can also include custom fields, which I've talked about, I believe, in my advanced webinar, if anyone's attended that. And this allows you to kind of create one within RelSci, this kind of custom, this new field. You could do free text for notes. You could do a checkbox to see, okay, well, maybe if you're prospecting and you're doing cold outreach, you can check off if you've tried to contact them. So let's say a checkbox, let's say if we're doing cold calls or cold outreach, whatever it may be. Or we've tried to ask maybe a board member for introductions to them. So it's save and continue. And so there's one big difference between lists and relationships that I always stress to clients and to users. It'll go through the matching process and tell you how many matched, which is great, 879 here. You can browse, if you have a smaller list, you can browse this and make sure that the system is matching correctly. But most of the time, it's fantastic. We have a great matching algorithm. So next, you'd hit save and continue. And this is where the big difference between relationships and lists come in. If I was to click save and continue right here, save and finish, which hopefully everyone is seeing, these possible matches, these 223 here, disappear. They're not stored anywhere. They're not like relationships where you can go and visit them and be like, okay, well, I have 5 minutes free now. Let's go through and see if I can match any. What this does is you have to go through these now and match them, or they will not be included on your list. So you can go through and match. So look here, it's like Alejandro, looked at a bodega. Bodega's here. Okay, that matches, etc. Theo. And so for potentials, I always like to tell clients and users a few tips and tricks since I live in the system every day. When we do list uploads, for potentials, for possibles, if there is one possibility here, that is usually the correct person, especially if they have a unique name. So if they have a very unique spelling of a name or very just unique name in general, and there's only one selection, it is most of the time the correct person. So Theo Jr. here only has one Theo Jr. I have no company here, no company description. and it's still matching me to Theo here. There's no other Theos appearing. We can safely say this is the same Theo. Now this might be different if it's a very common name, if you have background information, whatever it may be. So what I suggest doing is going through and selecting the different possibles. They do it usually here. We have a few different pages. So if you have 223 possibles, I believe it's about 100 or 150 possibles per page. You can go through all of them or not. The most likely possibles always appear at the top. So if you start getting possibles that are like, well, this is definitely not a match, like not even close, then just check a few more. If there's no other matches, you're most likely safe to just click save and finish. And so now you have the list. And there's a few things that people sometimes forget to do when they create a list. Number one, if you want to receive alerts about this list that you just created, make sure to hit alerts and turn them on. Another cool trick with alerts is you can turn them off individually. So if you have Bill Gates on a list or Warren Buffett, and you're like, well, it's great that I'm receiving alerts, but he's clogging up my news feed. You can turn off an alert individually. Go down and be like, I don't want to receive news about Bill Gates because he is all of my news feed and I can't get any other information about other prospects. So you can do that. I also want to touch upon these fields. So as you can see, that custom field here was included, and you can edit it as well. Change it. You can also change the custom field. You can check it off or not. But what's great and what is fantastic about these custom fields is they are exportable. So you import them to the RelSci universe, the RelSci platform, into your account, and whenever you want, if you export them as a CSV file, let's say I'm going to export 50, top 50. Actually, let's export all 880. Those fields will be included on the report. So they're not here, but when you report them out, they will be included. So you report them in, report them out, same information is included. So you're not losing any information. And same for internal identifiers. If you notice, anyone that's attended my advanced training webinar, hopefully you found it valuable. But if you have internal IDs turned on, you can include those and export, as well as notes, contact details, etc. All right, so that mostly covers the basics. So I'll get to the questions now, which is what I've been really looking forward to. But if you have any questions that are kind of top of mind right now about what we just went over, even specific questions, feel free to write in to the questions question module. All right, so let me pull up the first question here. And remember, most of these are, in fact, the first time I'm seeing these questions. Okay. I'll save that question for a little later. Okay, here's a good question from Tom. How can I receive news alerts on persons' relationships that I'm a companion for? So this is specific for an account setup. So some nonprofits and even for-profits have what are called companion users. So companion users all share kind of a central account. So a lot of nonprofits, and some of you out there actually do have this set up, will have a central account such as development. And this is where all your relationships are stored organizationally. And there might be 4 or 5 of you, and you can all log into this account as a companion. So you kind of all have your separate logins, but you're really logging into the same account. So the thing about companions is they all share the same account. Essentially, that's one of the pros, but it's also one of the cons. Meaning you can't personalize that account. You can't make your own news alerts because everyone else will receive those alerts. Every list that you create, everyone can see it. So it's great for nonprofits usually. For for-profits, the use case might be an admin, but in all honesty, we're trying to phase that out and use the admin capabilities, which I'll get into as well. So just got a question from Bruce, and give me 1 second, excuse me. I apologize for the interruption. Technical issue on my side. So actually, this is a great question from Bruce. It's, can you show us RelWeb and the nonprofit homepage? So there's a few things that we've included with capabilities we've developed, and RelWeb is the one I'm quite the proponent of. I'm quite the advocate for, as my colleagues say. I sometimes pushed it a little too hard, but it's a great use case. So RelWeb was developed for firms that have difficulty having people load their contacts in. Nonprofits, difficulty getting their board members to load it in. For-profits, just difficulty getting their C-suite to load it in, or senior partners. So this would be a capability that you use then, either if you're uncomfortable loading contacts in for security reasons, or you're having difficulty getting people to actually load their contacts in. So RelWeb can be turned on, and someone becomes the administrator, if you will, the manager of the RelWeb. So only 1 or 2 people can actually work on a RelWeb at one time. So as you can see, if you hit Manage RelWeb at the top here, it'll open up the relationship web page. So what you can do here is kind of create a custom way of looking at relationships. So I'll walk you through creating one. So you'd hit Create New. This is when you decide what groups within your firm would actually view a relationship. This is a demo account, but let's say your firm, it was the main firm name might be, XYZ University. And then you might have 4 different groups. You might have development, you might have gifts officers, career services, etc. And so you can create individual RelWebs for each group. So this is great for for-profits if you have different use cases. Or legal teams, BDs and librarians are focusing on something, very different than maybe the senior partners are, or the analysts are, whatever it may be. So let's say I just want to create a RelWeb for my group. So I'd select that, and then this is where you create the RelWeb. And if you have questions about this, I know it's not exactly intuitive, please write in. What this is shared relationships are private relationships. So they're relationships your firm has uploaded, and no one else in the RelSci universe has access to those. No other clients, etc. So they're called shared. They're colleagues and my relationships. And you can even filter these if you wanted to. So if there's someone that has a ton of relationships, or for example, for some reason has an Outlook plugin and is really has it going a lot and it's constantly syncing contacts to the RelSci universe and it's getting out of hand, you can turn them off if you wanted to. But usually I suggest leaving everyone on. Then this is where the power of RelWeb comes in. So let's say you're having difficulty uploading your board's relationships. Hit organizational relationships. And let's say I type in relationship science. So let's say our board is not being very cooperative with their relationships, which is not the case. Let's say they weren't. I could select board members and key executives and select current right here. And what this does is it uses RelSci relationships, so those public relationships you see on profiles in relationship summary that we use for Pathfinder, those commonalities. Oh, this board member has marked that he knows this person, and this person has access to person C because they have overlap at this board, this nonprofit, and this company. So what this is doing is it's using that public data to replace your board members' private relationships. So instead of uploading their private relationships, you're just utilizing those RelSci relationships as their private contacts, if you will. So if I select board members and key executives, current, and add, and you can also select, let's say, a specific individual. So if you have a one board member that, like most of your boards, perfectly fine with their relationships, they give them to you, but one or two are kind of holding out and haven't, you can add just one person instead of a whole organization. Then you'd hit apply changes. Oh, I do always forget this. Let's name this RelWeb Workshop. And I'd hit apply changes. And so some people have already seen this, some people have not. And what happens next is this section on the right here changes. Now relationship science is included. If we click that, it says 8,593. That number is the number of people in RelSci we have access to now, just through this section. And it's because it's pulling Neil's relationships, John's relationships, David's relationships, etc. And that's all included in that 8,000 number. And so this appears the same for Pathfinder, for Power Search, for everything. It's exactly like if you had uploaded your own relationships. And if you want to switch views between the two, you can click this. It's a little different than the normal setup. And you can toggle between your relationships, your colleagues' relationships. If you have multiple RelWebs enabled, so let's say you're the admin or like the super user, and you're helping out your gift officers, your development team, maybe marketing. If there's a specific event, you could have 4 different RelWebs all going at once, and you can toggle between them. Or you can have all 4 of them happening at the same time. There's actually an account, an user that is really liking a RelWeb that has a lot of RelWebs enabled at once. So that's RelWeb. In terms of, Bruce also asked about the nonprofit homepage. So 2 things. The nonprofit homepage, for all nonprofits, you should be seeing this module at the top here, donor search, discovery, as well as a few extra bits of information about donations. If you're not, let me know and I'll enable it for you. That's standard, it's no extra charge. There's also a new feature that we're going to be releasing shortly. I'm hoping it's next month, next release, but it might be in July as well. And what this is it's going to change how your homepage looks. It's going to be a more customizable homepage. There'll be different modules. You can customize it yourself. You can put, let's say you're interested in the top 5 connections at your firm, the top 5 most recently viewed profiles, your news, and let's say you want to take a look at the top industries you're connected to. You can kind of mix and match different modules. It's very much almost like how you can change your smartphone's home screen and kind of drag and drop different icons and apps. Same exact thing, but for RelSci. So hopefully that will launch soon. I'll let everyone know when it does. And if you want to try it out, we can always enable it. Okay, so the next thing I want to go over, hopefully this is relevant to most everyone, is for points of contact or admins or super users at the firm. And this is kind of a question from an admin, is, can we go over admin controls? So if you're an admin, or if you want to be an admin, let me know. And your screen will always look like this. It'll be RelSci, but you'll have a bar at the top. Gray bar means you're at your account. And if you log into anyone else, we change it to red to just make you aware you're not actually logged into your account. Excuse me. So to access the administrator page, so what's the good thing about being an admin? One, you can actually log into multiple people's accounts on their behalf. Two, you have access to the admin page. So what makes the admin page so special? A lot of things. Number one, it'll show you an overview of all your users that you manage. Number two, you can actually customize and change the alert settings for each user, all in one easy locale. And this is the biggest one. You can upload relationships for everyone all at once. It's what's called an admin sync. We used to do it a lot over here. We don't do it as much anymore. But let's say you're a for-profit especially, or a large nonprofit with a lot of gift officers. What you can do is, if you remember that Excel file, and I'll pull it up as well. So here's the Excel file for relationships, right? And so let's say these are all mine. This would be what the file looks like. But let's say I want to combine, I have 40 different Excel docs for 40 users that all have relationships, and I have to upload them. Well, it'll be kind of a pain to go into each one's account and upload it, or have them upload their own relationships. They might not do it, etc. Much easier to have one person be responsible and be on top of it. So what you can do is you can add another column before this on the left side and title it username. And what you can do is you can now, let's say a lot of people have a column such as owned by. So let's say, I'll just use this as an example. My username's, JNewman1, and I own these relationships. Do that again. JNewman1, and I own these relationships. And let's say Andrew Jaffe, one of my colleagues, excuse me, also has relationships to upload. And his username is Andrew Jaffe. And what we can do is, let's just do this. I did this a little backwards. So let me change it up so everyone can understand. Let's say it's owned by Jeremy Newman, right? So that's my name. Sorry for the confusion, everyone. And this one is owned by Andrew Jaffe. So what you can do is, there's a few different ways to do this. If it's not that large of a file, you can actually find everyone's corresponding username and put it in under the username column. So, if I have the time, I could do that and make sure that it's the right username. But let's say, it's a large file, you can always just do a control find if it's all going to open up for me. There we go. And you can replace. Let's say, find what? We're going to find Jeremy Newman. And what are we going to replace it with? We're going to replace it with my username. Fast, easy, do it all in one go. And what this allows you to do is, once this is done, you'd upload it as an Excel file, or save it as an Excel file. And then you can upload that file and it will match to every user. So if I have 500 contacts and they're marked under a column username with my username, and Andrew Jaffe has 2,000, etc., etc., we can upload less files and save more time, and it still matches correctly. The only kind of caveat here is we do suggest not having a file more than 15,000 rows long. The system kind of can get overloaded, and it will not go through. The servers won't let that file go through. But it's much quicker and a much easier way of saving time and uploading one file for each user. The other big thing, which I always advocate in the advanced webinar, is internal identifiers. So if you have internal IDs on and you don't want to mark them in each profile, this is where you can upload those identifiers en masse. It's exactly like the relationship uploading process. Actually, it's pretty much the exact same thing as the list uploading process. But instead of that tier field, if you remember, I'd actually make an internal ID field and list our internal identifiers. So if you pull it from a CRM, it might say Salesforce ID, constituent ID, whatever it may be. Just change that field name to internal ID and it will actually sync to the platform. This is what you use if you want to sync and match internal identifiers to anyone in the universe, not just relationships. All right, next question. This one comes from Neil. I have a number of lists of people I follow for various portfolio companies under different portfolio managers. Is there any way that I can get these all in separate emails so I can more easily forward them around to managers that care about only a particular list of people? So let's break this down. Let's work at it. So he has a number of lists of people that he follows of various portfolio companies under different managers. Okay, so multiple lists. So he's asking, is there any way that I can get these all in separate emails? Because what I assume he's doing, and a lot of people do, is that he forwards these to the specific managers to make sure that they're aware of them. So this is an alerts question. So to do what you're asking, first you'd have to make sure you have those lists uploaded. Next, you go to alert settings. And this is where you would activate, make sure all the lists are activated. So let's say, as an example, I want to activate the Forbes 400, the Fortune 500, and the Philanthropy 50. So this is a nonprofit focus, but it still works for any person and any source. So if you have safe searches you want to look at, industries, different topics, it all is relevant. Next, you go to the email settings tab at the top. And I might have gone over this with a few people in the advanced webinar. But this is where you change, at least for your own alerts. Admin would be that admin page I showed you prior. You can change the frequency here, daily, weekly, or instant, or none. And this is where you change the format. So these are everything you're receiving in the email. These are all the alerts you're receiving in the email. This could be where you customize something. For example, if you're only interested in receiving nonprofit stuff in your email, you can turn off, let's say, banking and finance and following. So only these are included in your email, but these, industry and following, will still be included in your news feed when you log into RelSci. But let's say you want to separate, you have these 4 different lists that are going to 4 different people, and you want to capture all the information you can and make it easy to forward those alerts to the correct people. What you do is standard RelSci alerts come combined. So you'll receive one alert, one email from all these sources. If you want to receive an email for each source, so I want to receive an email for donor prospect list, Forbes list, Fortune 500, select individual, and you'll receive as many emails as sources you have turned on. So if you have 10 sources turned on, you'll receive 10 emails at 9:30 your time. And then number of headlines, self-explanatory. Standard is, I believe, 10. If you have, if you're really interested and you want to receive 100 headlines about 4 different sources, that'll be 400 headlines. You can do that. There's no limitation, but you might be swamped with all that information. Okay, so that answers that question. If you have any questions, anything you want me to focus on specifically, write in. All right, here's a question from Patrick. He said he's just gotten access to RelSci and was asked to find out how his firm may know Facebook. So he wants to kind of know how he might go about doing that. All right, so there's a couple ways to do it, but the easiest way is whenever you think of getting to know someone, Pathfinder, always. So go to Pathfinder, and this is going from My Relationship Web. These 12,000 people that we have indicated that are door openers, people that we'd be, comfortable asking an introduction from, or at least have some connection to Facebook. And type that in. And wait for the drop down to appear. Select it, and hit Show Paths. And so what this will do, as a lot of you may know, is show you how you might be connected to Facebook, your firm. And in this case, we have a lot of direct connections. For example, from me, it's a demo account, but I've marked that I know Reed Hastings. Why? Hover over. There's no pop-up box that shows, so it's a direct relationship. If Andrew Jaffe was looking at this path, you have to come ask me, how do you know Reed? Would you be comfortable asking for an introduction? If we continue down, hopefully I can show you an example of RelWeb. Unfortunately, there's no great example, but we'll continue on. So then he asks, okay, so this is how we might be able to get in touch with someone over at Facebook. But how about specifically board members at Facebook? All right, well, that's a little more complex of a question. Instead of just Facebook, board members. So to do that, and this works for individuals, if it's a list of individuals, if it's a list of organizations, whatever it may be, click Filter. And unselect everything but board members, and let's say he only wants to see current board members. Now hit Apply. And this will just show you current board members over at Facebook and how you can get in touch with them. And then he also asks, so how can I see board members? That's how you just see just board members. You hit that filter button over here. Then he asks, can I see certain coworkers' relationships? So this is great if you're at a for-profit or a really large nonprofit. Let's say, maybe you asked a coworker for too many introductions, or maybe not on the best of terms, or whatever it may be. Go to filter on the left side. It might say my RelWeb. It might say my firm's relationships or my firm. Click filter, and you can actually choose who you want to include. So that's people. So let's just say I want to go through Andrew Jaffe here and David. Then if I click over to sources, this would be where it's pulling from RelWeb. So actually, let's only include David and RelWeb. So that RelWeb I just created prior, and hit Apply. So this will change the results again. No paths were found, unfortunately. So let's kind of change that up. Let's include Andrew as well. Let's see if that changes it. No paths either. That's unfortunate. So the big thing to note that a lot of people don't know about Pathfinder is there's a limit of 300 paths for one search. So we cap it out at 300 because if we ran it for every single path, there'd be a lot of paths. It'd be unnecessary information, some of them. But what you can do is if you change the different criteria, if you only say board members, or C-suite, or other, or current, or prior, change different sources, so only certain colleagues or certain RelWebs, it'll still give you 300 paths, and it'll give you 300 different paths. So if you want to get a full kind of comprehensive view, play around with the filtering options. Another follow-up to Patrick's question, can I copy and paste the info on this page to share it with someone? And as a lot of people may know, what I always like to do is talk about our reporting capabilities. And I'll pull up that same search I had before, and there's 3 ways to report out RelWeb, or excuse me, Pathfinder results. You can hit report and hit PDF and hit download. And I'll show you this. This is not my favorite way to make a Pathfinder report, an actionable one. This is great if you want a lot of detail. So if we open this up in a new tab, I bet you many of you have seen this. It'll tell you, okay, top 10 paths. This is the direct path. If we scroll down, direct, and then here we go. Here's an indirect. It'll tell you why we believe Sheryl Sandberg is connected to Mark Zuckerberg. It tells you why. Breaks it down. This is great if you want a lot of information, but it's not the most it's not the easiest on the eyes. It's not, you know, unorganized, but each path gets its own page, and if you're trying to get a board member to make an introduction, that might not be the most reasonable. And I always say, if you want really easy to read path report, click Control P, pops open an awesome report here once it loads. And here we go. Hopefully everyone can see this. It's a much simpler, actionable circle, different paths they might be able to introduce you to, and this to your, you know, your board member, your CDO. Much more actionable, simpler. In my opinion, one of the best ways to print out paths. You can also, if you're into manipulating the data, this is specific for for-profits especially, or more research-oriented nonprofits, do CSV. And there's a capability we have that I've been asked about a few times, especially people that like to manipulate the data in Excel or outside the platform, called internal entity IDs. So the RelSci is the database at its core of people, and everyone has a unique identifier. So that's what we call internal identifiers, internal IDs. And if you export a report of organizations, people, and then let's say you add information to them, but you want to re-import that back into RelSci, like, hey, I just wanted to add some columns on this prospect list that I pulled up in PowerSearch. You know, I have the tiers that I want to mark them as. We have their contact information, whatever it may be. If you don't have internal identifiers, when you upload it again, you'll have to go through that matched potentials, that whole process. If you have internal IDs, it is an exact match. So if you want that, if you're interested in manipulating the data, it doesn't come standard, but it is included with the subscription, let me know. And if you want it included in the report, just always click it off. Okay, continuing on. Technically, I know this webinar goes to 2:30, as I indicated. It's an hour and a half. But if you do have something else to attend, please feel free to exit. There's a survey at the end when you do exit the webinar. I'd appreciate it if you filled it out. But continuing on, we do have another half hour and a little over, so everyone else, please hang around. All right. So, this one comes from Charlene. I'm looking for wealthy individuals that have recently come into additional cash. I see insider transactions in my newsfeed. Can I search in demand for people in a certain state that have sold stock recently? So yes, there's a few ways to do this. So the first thing I'm thinking, okay, specific search criteria, PowerSearch. So I'll go to PowerSearch. In this case, we're looking for wealthy individuals that have recently come into additional cash. So this would mean, okay, well, maybe they've sold shares in a company recently and had an influx of cash. So in this case, we want to make sure we're in the People tab in PowerSearch, not Organization. And let's say we're interested in people that are in the New York area specifically. And we're not interested in the career information, education, no. Maybe if you're university and you want to see people that have recently come into some money, in the past couple months and are alumni of yours, that'd be a great, potential search. All right, continuing on. We click insider transactions. So insider transactions would be where you'd go for anyone that's recently sold or bought shares publicly. So let's just say we don't really care about what industry they're involved in or what company. We just want them to have sold the shares recently. So let's say total market value of $1 million. So one thing I do like to note is occasionally some of the numerical fields in Power Search change. So for example, this one, to type out 1 million, I'd have to type out a full $1 million. A few others will change the value of that. So if you type in 1, it might be worth $1 million already. So that should be 1 million if I'm correct. Fantastic. All right. So sold at least 1 million in shares in the past 30 days. Click search. All right. Fantastic. So we have 50 people that in the past 30 days have sold $1 million in shares or more. So there's a couple ways you can go about doing this in terms of getting really specific and getting, let's say, alerted about these individuals. One, we can add this to a list. That's valuable if you're interested in these specific people. And this is a very targeted campaign that'll happen quickly. Sure, a list will work. But what I suggest people do is instead do a save search. So save this as New York, 1 mil, insider transactions. And let's say we want the alerts on. So we hit save, and now we'll start receiving alerts about these individuals. And not only will we receive alerts about these 52, if there's anyone that gets added to this, we'll start receiving alerts about those individuals as well. Also, if someone drops off of this, so let's say someone sold $1 million in shares 29 days ago or 30 days ago, and then tomorrow I'm trying to receive alerts about this as well, they won't appear because they didn't sell those shares within 30 days. So that's one way. We can also add this to a list and name it, we can name it the same thing. We could turn alerts on as well if we wanted to. But one thing I do like to bring attention to is if you want to do a specific advanced news search, you can click advanced search at the bottom left here on the page. Hopefully everyone can see that. So if you click advanced search, it'll bring up different criteria you can use. In this case, we can even search within that list or save search. So let's type in 1 mil. So 1 mil insider transaction list. Let's see if that save search appears. We'll use the list for now. So 1 mil. If it loads, apologize. That's what I was doing wrong. I was using an exclamation point. All right, so 1 million insider transaction list. Excuse me for that little hiccup. And then we can get really specific now. So those there's 52 people on that list. We can search by industry, if they're interested in a charitable cause, topic, maybe they're involved with certain financial results or other insider transactions, or even their name. So let's say like, hey, well, those 52 people, I'm really interested about, a certain individual on that list. We can search their name as well. So this is a way to get really targeted information about people that have recently come into wealth. This is great for wealth managers, for prospectors, wealth officers, I should say gift officers. A lot of different use cases for this, and not just have recently come into wealth. It's another use case if you want to get specific targeted news about those individuals or organizations. You can use Power Search in this manner. All right, so continuing. Okay, so here's a question from Dave. I'm looking at Jeff Immelt's profile. So let's pull that up, Jeff Immelt's profile. And Dave's specifically looking at his relationships. So these 4,000 here on the left. So that probably would mean that he's actually in relationship summary. So click all, go into relationship summary. And, his question is, why can't I export all his relationships? He kind of wants to, export them externally and manipulate the data that way. And so RelSci standard there's a reporting cap of 300 records at once. There's only one exception to this rule, is your own relationship. So if you have 8,000 relationships or 1,000, you should be able to export all your relationship without there being a cap. But for everything else, Power Search results, Pathfinder results, discovery lists, there's a cap of 300 records. This is a reason, just kind of making sure our data is secure. However, if you ever want to report a large amount of records, don't feel like you're limited to just the 300. Email me. We can discuss just implementing that export all feature permanently, or we can either just do it temporarily, or I could even do the report for you and get them all and email them to you. So that's why you can't export them all. All right. Here's a question from Christopher. How do I search for Republican donors? So this is political. This is if you're a for-profit and you're interested in clientele that are more conservative or liberal. Same for nonprofits. Some target, think tanks and other nonprofits might target specific political ideologies. There is a way to do this. So we do capture political donation information. And so what you could do, you go to Power Search, People, and go down to Donations. And you can type in an organization. So you could type in Republican, say party. The Republican Party would be an organization, or the Tennessee Republican Party. There's specific organizations and causes for candidates. So let's see if I can pull one up here. The Barack Obama Foundation. There's also, for example, if someone's running for governor, you could do that as well. And that's one example of trying to get political information. It doesn't even have to be if you're looking for people to donate to a Republican cause. If you're just interested in people that are conservative, whether it be for survey reasons, whether it be because that's just who you're trying to target, you can do it this way. You can also do membership information. So if they're part of a membership organization, if they're part of the Y, if they're part of the Young Presidents Organization, if they're part of certain membership organizations that might be relevant to your business or to your cause, then you can do this. You can also do personal. So if they're interested in something that we've tagged publicly, and also if we've captured their political party. So there's 3 different sections here that you can kind of find information about which political party they support or what ideology they support as well. And even interest There's hunting. You could type in certain interests that you might think might align with a political ideology or party, and we might have those on file, and you can search via that way as well. All right, so that's that question done. And please, if you have any live questions, please send them in. Okay. Oh, here's a good question. All right, so Chris asks, I'm meeting with David Kamansky later this week, and this is historical. He's looking to figure out who might be able to introduce us, so his firm, that has given to hospitals. So, meeting with David Kamansky, figuring out who he might be able to introduce us to that have given to hospitals that aren't affiliated with New York Presbyterian. All right, so how do we go about solving this? We're figuring this out. So we'd probably use Power Search. So meeting with David Kamansky, trying to figure out who he might be able to introduce us to that are given to hospitals. So this one's a little more advanced. So, okay, you could use Power Search, and you could try to look for people that he could introduce you to. But if you don't have his relationships uploaded, how do you know who he could directly introduce you to? So if you do Power Search, you could fill out the criteria for people that have donated to hospitals, and make sure that New York Presbyterian is not included, and then do a Pathfinder search. But that might be a little too complicated. So the way I would go about doing it is typing in David Kamansky and making sure that he's first profiled. Man, he is. And so this is what you would do. So if you want to get a direct connection from David Kamansky, right, like someone that we believe he knows, you go to his relationship summary, click See All. And this is a great workflow if you want to get really granular. And hit Add To, and click List. And you could add it to a new list. So you could say David Kamansky's Rels. And hit Save. Okay. Then you could go back to Power Search. And hopefully, I know a lot of you had attended the advanced training webinar, and I always like to talk about this, but lists make RelSci powerful because you can use them within different tools. In this case, you can use them within Power Search. So in the Appears On field, type in David Kamansky's, that list that we just created, you can select it. And now it's searching within his relationships, not the 4.8 billion people that we have profiled, but in David's relationships. And so now you can fill out that criteria. So, okay. So people that have donated to hospitals. Should say charitable cause. Okay, well, hospitals and health centers. This would be where your context would come into play. Do you want specifically hospitals and health centers, or would it be more healthcare? We'll do hospitals and health centers for now. And we can click search. So this is going to bring people up that have donated to hospitals and health centers that are within David Kamansky's relationships. So people that we believe he directly knows. So there's no one-hop paths here. These are people, everyone that's appearing, these 113 people, are all directly connected to David. So you could ask David, reasonably, if he might be able to maybe put you in touch with some of these individuals. Now, the more difficult part of this process would be getting rid of New York Presbyterian. So how do we do that? It's difficult to. There's a few really interesting ways to work around it internally, but the best way is to export this out, capture that donation information, and make sure you disclude New York Presbyterian. There's a few other ways to do it. So let's go back to David Kamansky's profile real fast. and go to his relationships. And so the one thing that we've included at the behest of a lot of our clients is this filter option for relationships. So if we click filter, so I don't want people. So, okay, here we go. Strong connections, action, only show relationships through. So in this case, one way you might be able to do it is remove any connections through New York Presbyterian. And so if you had any connections to New York Presbyterians, anyone, those people would be removed, and that would be one way to narrow it down. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. In my opinion, using Excel externally might be the easiest for now. All right, so that kind of covers Chris's question. All right, so I know we have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to launch a poll real fast to kind of gauge where people want more explanation, since we do have enough time to go over most everything. So please, please answer, and I'll try to cover whatever you indicate. All right, so it looks like some people are still voting. Looks like it's a relatively an even split between Pathfinder and Discovery. I'm going to close the poll. And I'm going to actually take a look at Discovery. Discovery can probably have its own webinar, and in the future I actually might do that because it's such a hefty and big tool. So I'm going to try to explain certain use cases for Discovery, why it's useful, and how to use it in about 15 minutes. So if you have any other questions, write in, and I'll try to answer those as quickly as possible as well. So Discovery, what's its purpose? It's a macro look at your firm's relationships, and that's what my go-to is. My go-to is it's a macro look at your firm's relationships. Yeah. I believe you guys might be. There we go. There's a little difficulty with my screen. So Discovery, as I said, is a macro look at your firm's relationships. But it's not just a macro look at your firm's relationships. It can be a macro look at an organization's relationships that we have profiled, a list, a person and their public relationships. There's a lot of different ways to utilize Discovery. So right now it's going from first degree relationships to my rel web. So these 12,000 people at the top here. Excuse me. So why is this powerful? Well, for a nonprofit, if you're kind of looking at, okay, where's our coverage? Who do we have door openers to? Maybe we're underutilizing a specific industry or location. Or maybe we have a large alumni base in California that we really haven't tapped into using RelSci yet. This would be something to kind of, as its name implies, discover new connection points. So there's a couple ways to use this. You can either click right into industries, location, role, even specific sections, or you can just click explore relationships. So what this does is it pulls up a pie chart of different, in this case, industries. If you look at the top, it says industry. And it breaks down who you have access to directly. So these 12,000 people, who you know within these 12,000 people and where they work. So okay, so we know 3,000 people that are connected to investment services. We know 2,000 that are connected to holding companies, 3,000, etc. And some people mention that, oh, this doesn't add up. It's like 3,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, 7,000. That's already way more than the 12,000 we have connected to. there's overlap here with people. So, certain people might be involved with 10 different corporations that might be sit on different boards, nonprofits. So one person might be accounting for 30 people here, if you will. So there might be the same person that we have connection to that's involved with investment services, holding companies, other businesses, etc. And they're being counted each time because they have some connection point there. We can click into this. It's okay. It's like, oh, investment services and portfolio management. Who do we know in that sector, with that vertical? Or maybe we can sell into it if you're a for-profit, or for your nonprofit, maybe. Well, investment services and portfolio management. Well, a lot of people that work in that industry, are relatively wealthy, or might have come into money recently. So let's see if we have a connection to an organization. Maybe if you're going after a corporate or foundational giving. It's like, oh, maybe there's a corporation we have connections to that we're not aware of. This is a great way to tell. This breaks it down by organization, strong, average, and weak connection points. You can also break it down people and how you're connected to them. So strongest paths. As you see, these are all direct connections. So all these are direct, meaning from someone to that individual. So we directly know Paul Berry is directly, is in that 12,000. So going back, what else you can do with discovery? And I know I'm hopping around a bit. I'm trying to cover as much as I can with discovery. I know we're getting close to that 2:30 mark. Excuse me. If you change first degree relationships to second degree, first, I advise you make sure that you're doing it with under 10,000 to 5,000 people. Because what this is now going to do is it's going to expand discovery. If you notice, everyone there was directly in the 12,000 my relationship web has. Second degree is those one-hop connections. So it's going to tell you who you're connected to directly and through those direct connections. So it's going to expand that web exponentially. It gets very, very large very quickly, and it takes a bit to load. So I won't do it now. You can also filter by board, C-suite, and other. And include prior means we pull a lot of information based off of board history, career history, etc. So prior means it's looking at individuals' prior information and companies' prior employees. So prior, think it's expanding the search even more. I usually suggest to keep it to current. It's more intuitive, and it doesn't take as long to load. All this information is exportable as well. Okay, so the next module, this is just discovery. As you can tell, this is second degree relationships for my relationship web to Philanthropy 50. As you can see, it is still loading. This is why you do not do second degree relationships unless you have some time. You can still go and use the platform if this is loading. It'll actually tell you. You can continue using the platform, and then a pop-up will appear in the top right, letting you know it's populated. But I'm going to go ahead and actually change that to first. And so what this is actually doing is it's going from those 12,000 people I know to the Philanthropy 50 list. And it's telling me where there's overlap. Okay, well, do I know anyone that is actually on the Philanthropy 50 list? Apply. And it will tell me if I do. Now, in this case, this use case isn't exactly brilliant. It's okay, well, we could just do Pathfinder to the Philanthropy 50 list. And if we know anyone, they'll appear as a path to themselves. So for example, Bill Gates, let's say Bill Gates is on the Philanthropy 50 list or the Giving Pledge. If you run, and we have a relationship with him, we run our relationship to the Philanthropy 50, a strong path would appear between Bill Gates and Bill Gates. Well, that's obvious because they're the same person. This kind of gets rid of that and tells me, okay, who do we know on the Philanthropy 50 list? So in this case, my demo count, I know 23 people. They're on the Philanthropy 50. Andrew Jaffe over here, he knows 2. So other use cases for this. Well, you don't just have to do first degree. First degree means there are common relationships, meaning there overlap. Second degree, so first degree means they're the same person. So if I do my relationships to a list or an organization, it's like, oh, hey, we know this person. They also work over this organization. Second degree, where it gets a little more useful. It's okay, well, who do we know that can connect us to someone on the Philanthropy 50 or the Forbes 400 or the Forbes Billionaires list? That is why it takes a little longer to load, but it's a little more useful. It gives you a different perspective. You can break it down by people. So, okay, who at my firm knows the most people, has the most access to people on the Forbes Billionaires list? Or what's also interesting is get some analytics and go no relationships. Okay, well, who on the Philanthropy 50 do we have no connections to at all? Like no access to whatsoever. And maybe you can work on developing that access point. You could do that to foundations, to corporations, whatever it may be. And I know we're almost out of time. And the thing I do want to say about discovery is that's just going over my relationship web. So the source, that's just talking about from my relationship web. That's just discussing for the second module. That's just talking about my relationship web for the default input for the first module. And I didn't even cover all the different possibilities. You can change this. You can change this to an organization, to a list, to a saved search, to groups of colleagues. I could put in a prospect list and see who they know. If I have a board list or whatever it may be, an alumni list, a parents list, you can input this and see how they might be connected to different individuals. There's a lot of use cases with discovery. You can get lost in it for hours, and it's fantastic. Just the only caveat is it does take sometimes a little longer to load, so be a little patient with the tool. And the reporting as well is very powerful for for-profits. For example, there's a client right now that's putting together some marketing material. So she's taking a look at, okay, what are our underlying companies, our hedge fund managers, private equity managers, investors, etc., board members, people that we can't really get their contact information from, not easily. And, to get contact information from hundreds of underlying companies, dozens of managing companies would be, almost impossible. Instead, you can make a list in RelSci. Combine those lists, of managers, of investors, and then put it into discovery, and it breaks it down who those people, who you know, as well as who those people can get you in touch with potentially. And then you can report that out. You can make pie charts in Excel. You can use it for marketing, on collateral, on a PowerPoint. You can break it down by industry. A lot of different information you can pull, and very powerful. So that's just one use case for discovery. There's tons. I've seen lots of different use cases for this tool. And I think actually if enough people show interest, I might make just a webinar, an hour-long webinar on just discovery and what it can do and how it's powerful. So if you're interested in that, just a whole webinar on discovery, email me and let me know, and I'll try to gauge interest and see if I should implement something like that. All right, so that's I know it's almost 2:30, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining me for this. I know, especially on a Thursday before a holiday weekend, at least for us Americans, anyone international, hope you have a good week and weekend as well. But if you have any questions, any follow-up questions, please email me. As I mentioned previously, there'll be a survey that'll launch. Feel free to fill that out. It just helps me gauge where I can improve, what you found valuable, etc.